Hello, everybody. Welcome. If you caught my last video, then you know I was extremely excited to jump into the world and the game of the new PC port version of Rise of the Ronin. This PlayStation 5 exclusive got mixed reviews last year, and I was excited to see how it would perform on PC. Well, after just a few hours, I ended up returning it. Here's why. Now, if you watched my video about Rise of the Ronin, or if you read any of the comments in it, the biggest thing that people were concerned about or already passing judgment on were the graphics of the game. Now, honestly, they weren't that bad. I saw a lot of complaints online, but my experience, the game looked decent. It's not next gen stunning, but it's not even close to an ugly 2005 Xbox 360 game, which is what people were talking about. The lighting and the environment can look, I mean, it looked pretty at some points. It looked good, but don't expect it to be on the level of Ghost of Tsushima or groundbreaking games. What's interesting is that this is a lot of complaints that people were making on the PC port. Now, if we go back to the PlayStation 5 exclusive reviews, they all sort of had one common theme. And if you go back to my video, you'll know what that was, which was the fighting mechanic of the game. And I'm here to tell you that the gameplay itself had potential. If you're a fan of Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, like I am, you'll notice a lot of similarities. This really was Team Ninja's attempt to make that stand out Sekiro. And we'll talk about how it's maybe not even an attempt. There was a stamina meter, there was a heavy focus on parrying and counters. The game encourages a measured approach to fights using key management in a way that Neo fans will recognize. When the combat worked, it was incredibly fun. But unfortunately, if you listen to those keywords there, the experience was far from smooth. Now, this is where things really started to fall apart for me. In just the 2.5 hours I played this game, it crashed 3 times. That's not fun. That's not something any gamer wants to enjoy, especially when you're paying money and you want to review a product. The fact that you are unable to play the product is kind of frustrating. On top of that, the game had a movement glitch error thing. The only comparison I can think of is it ran in like cinematic slow mo when it wasn't meant to be. One of the very opening fights of this game felt incredibly slow, and I thought maybe it was like part of the game. Maybe when we fight bosses in the game, it goes slower and gives you time to react. But after playing the game more and more, when I would get to the open world, it kept happening. So it forced me to come to the conclusion that it was just an error in the game. It's almost like the game wasn't processing itself fast enough to keep up with what was going on. And so it was just really, really hard to keep defending the game when things like this were happening. When these things would happen, it made the combat feel slow, it made it feel sluggish and just unresponsive. It's one thing for a game to be difficult, which is what we've known to expect from games from Team Ninja or Dark Souls or anything in this genre. It's another when you're fighting against bad optimization. And from what I've seen online, I really am not alone. Many people were reporting the same, if not similar, issues to the point where Team Ninja actually posted on their official accounts saying that they are working on a hot fix for a lot of these issues. Now, since writing the script and the return of the game, I have actually seen that they did post that patch out there, and it did address a lot of the issues that gamers were having with the Rise of the Ronin. The only one in regards to what I talked about was the crashing. It did seem like that was a very common theme, and it said they fixed that. There were other things like long loading screens or loading screens that never stopped. There were things where combat would never you would never get out of combat. I'm not really sure how that would look like. I'm assuming maybe like the angle of the camera just would never leave the combat area. But there was a bunch of things that they seemingly fixed. However, a quick glance at the reviews, and it doesn't look like much has changed from the perspective of gamers. Some people enjoy it, diehard Team Ninja fans enjoy it. I really wanted to be one of those. But as someone who buys games now for the purpose of reviewing them, I don't think that it would have been wise for me to keep that or really justified. If I'm not going to keep it, or I wouldn't encourage you to spend the money on it, why would I keep it? And that's the most frustrating part about games like this, and this game specifically. It had a solid foundation. The combat was amazing and really entertaining when it worked. The problem is, in 2025, where we have so many new games coming out seemingly every single day, it's really hard for me to want to come back to a game like this or give it a fair shake past the release window. You have the ability to make a game be in the position you want it to be at release. So when it releases like this, you feel kind of slighted. I can see myself coming back to this game at some point if the major patch fixes everything and they lower the price. But as of right now, unfortunately, I cannot recommend Rise of the Ronin to anyone who wants to enjoy their gaming experience. If you're willing to put up with performance issues, you might still enjoy Rise of the Ronin, but for me, it just wasn't worth the struggle. That was the biggest indicator for me wanting to return the game itself. I'm sure if I messed with the settings, it could have worked, but as a consumer, as someone who is trying to build up a better reputation for recommending games to someone, if I have to sit down and mess around with the settings on what I have is the recommended settings to play the game, I don't think it was really worth my time or your time to figure out what would be the best settings for a game if it's not optimized on the default settings from the start. But I would love to keep this conversation going, guys, in the comments down below. So please let me know. Did you play this game? Did you enjoy this game? Did you have some of the issues? Did you have none of the issues? I'd really like to meet someone who didn't have any issues and see what their perspective on the game itself was, as this game was so heavily pre-release and post-release talked about how it was going to be an optimization nightmare. So if you or someone you know played this game with no issues, please comment and let me know how you liked the game itself, because I have a feeling it would be a really good game. And that seems to be what a lot of reviews on PlayStation 5 were when the game worked properly. But nevertheless, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.